It's recording, recording. Okay. The Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, let's see here. Who else we got? Okay. Let's see here. Let's try this over here. I'm going to minimize you guys. All right. Do quick roll call. We got Jasmine. Jasmine, yo. Callum. Aiden. Matt. Emily. Abigail. Right there. Hey, Abigail. Ashley. Anna. Is that Anna? Donovan. John Hurley. Right there. Okay, we got Quattro. Cameron. Yo. Rebecca. Gotcha. John Cost. Kate. Back there. Sophia. Maria. Okay, Maria. That's Maria. Sam. Over there. Okay. Christina. Kristen Neely. Okay, Kristen. Sarah. Okay. Show you guys. Tristan. Teresa. Okay. Caleb. Got you, Caleb. Kyle. Yo, what's up? Jordan. Yep, there's Jordan. Okay. Antonia. Okay, we got Deshaun. Jonah, right up front center. Landon. And Anthony. Okay. So, let's see here. Let's check. Just want to check with folks. Can you hear me out there? Is this good? Is this clear? Thumbs up?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Good. All right, cool. All right. So, get back to the very beginning of what this whole class is about, right? Biology, study of life. Life is one of the common denominators that unites us all. These aren't in your notes. This is sort of we're going to take a little side this morning. Because we keep having problems, man. We keep having problems. So why do I have Jacob Blake's name on the screen here? Jacob Blake, anybody? Yeah. Yeah, so This man was, police were called to a domestic dispute. So we're not assigning blame at all here. So that's not the point of this, bringing this up. He was actually trying to break it up, according to the people, the witnesses. And, you know, he was shot 7 times. Right now, he's suffering some paralysis. He's in the hospital. So if you want to pray, you can pray for him. I think he had some of his children were in the vehicle with him. So they saw that, all right? And fear cripples us, man. Fear cripples us. It grips us. It seems that as we are continuing to go through this time of masking and avoiding and distancing, which we are doing because that's what our public health officials are telling us to do, right? Because we don't want to spread or potentially either catch or spread what's going around, because people are dying. Maybe this is also, our fear is heightened. So just be aware. Just be aware of how fear is impacting us. Because one of the things we're going to cover in this, at least for this cell biology section, is that we're going to see that all of these processes that are happening, most of the things that are happening, they're done intentionally. They happen, they have a purpose in the cell. The purpose is to keep the cell alive. And ultimately, if you're talking about an organism, that's to keep us alive. And these cells, how many people in this room have cells? We're all comprised of cells. These cells are all carrying out these same processes. So, what is common? What binds us together? What is unifying and similar is so much greater than what's separate. And we get lost in that. We all do. I know I do. I get lost in what's different. Okay, so there's a song here. I can't play it because I don't think that we have a sound system in here. It would be lame. It would be just coming out of this little PC here. There's a lot of good songs, but there's this nice song here called Sunday Bloody Sunday by an Irish group called U2. Anyone ever heard of them, U2? U2? Awesome. Good. One of my jobs is to enculturate you. Some people have a different idea of, it's actually going to play. Listen to the bass in this computer, man. I'm just joking. It's pretty lame. So, we're supposed to go ahead to, come on, you're gonna forward to me? No. So, all right, it's not working. Awesome. There we go. So this is a song that they wrote. It's about an incident in Ireland, Northern Ireland, where on an Easter Sunday, 13 Catholics came out of their church after celebrating Easter, and they were gunned down by the military. All right, this is in the early 70s. It's going to play it again. Stop. I refuse to allow you to play anymore. How did I get it to move before? No. Okay, you know what? Here we go. And the drummer, they wrote this in early 80s. He says this. He says, this song's about when 13 Catholics were shot by British soldiers. He says, that's not what the song is about. That's an incident. The most famous incident in Northern Ireland. And it's the strongest way of saying, as the lyrics say, how long How long must we sing this song? How long do we have to put up with this? And I don't care who it is. You know that people are dying every single day through bitterness and hate. What's the point? What's the point of that? What point does it serve? It doesn't serve a point. Especially in a class like this. Our class is about life. It says it applies to all different kinds of situations. So, again, this isn't about the police or Jacob Blake or whatever. This is about, we have a lot of things we have to deal with as a society. And hopefully by the time we get through some more of this material, be paying attention to just how awesome this life, this thing that we call life is. It is a miracle that it exists at all. It's a miracle that any of us actually exist. And it holds us together. So keep trying to break through anything that would keep us from entering into a conversation with somebody else. Might be different, sound different, think differently, believe differently, whatever. We got to get beyond that. Because if our bodies acted that way, always, we probably wouldn't be here. So that's just my little thing. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be dangerous. I'm not going to be dangerous and open it up for conversation, but I think it's important to think about and step back. We see these things happening. It's easy to assign blame, say this person was wrong or that person was wrong. But they'll start with ourselves too and see, how am I responding to this? How am I feeling right now? Maybe we're feeling uncomfortable about even discussing this here. I didn't come here for a sermon. I came here for biology. Well, biology is about life. So, anyways, just seemed worthwhile. I'm not into politics. I am into life. Thank you, you two. Thank you for playing again. I'm going to try to move on to class now. Yay, there we go. All right. So macromolecules, we all have these. Proteins, carbs, nucleic acids, lipids. Polymers, big molecules. Monomers are the little units that make up those polymers, right? We talked about that. And of our meal here, our ribeye steak, is that actually a ribeye steak? I don't think that is. You know what that is? I think that might be a New York strip steak. Maybe it is a ribeye. I don't know. We're going to start with proteins. But before we do that, we said that those polymers are all held together by a linker, right? They'll have a unique linker. So railroad cars are going to have one kind of a linker. Tractor trailer, if they link a number of tractor trailers together, they're going to have a different kind of linker. So we have to figure out how to form that. So first we're going to talk about some reactions about how bonds between these monomers are formed. So we're forming. So what we have here, we're going to look at a very brief version of a dehydration reaction. So when we form a bond between two molecules, the general term for that reaction is called a dehydration reaction. So what we have here is on the left, we have I'm circling this in red. Those of you who are remotely, you can't see what I'm circling. What functional group is this? John. Hydroxyl. Awesome. Who says it's polar? Who says it's nonpolar? Who doesn't care? You don't even care enough to put your hands up. So this is polar, right? Because oxygen is very highly what? What's the property that, yes? It's has high electronegativity compared to hydrogen. So it's going to hold on to, it's going to hog that electron that hydrogen normally has. And so then the oxygen is going to have that partial negative charge, and the hydrogen will have that partial positive charge, right? Okay. So here we have a hydroxyl. Here we have a bunch of stuff in the middle. So when you see these tan structures, that's just a bunch of stuff in the middle. And here's the end of one molecule. Here's a hydroxyl of another molecule, right? So we're going to form a dehydration reaction. So when you hear that word dehydration, what does that mean? Kyle, dehydrate. Takes the water molecule out. How do you dehydrate, Sophia? You don't drink water. So you're just constantly losing water, right? So dehydrate, we're taking water out. So bonds are formed in general by this reaction. It's called a dehydration reaction. It's going to require the input of energy. So I'm putting energy into this. And it results in the release of a water molecule right here. So that's why this hydrogen and this hydroxyl, notice the hydrogen is donated by the molecule on the left. The hydroxyl is donated by the molecule on the right. These two come together. Now, you might think that I'm going to fall off the platform. It kind of looks like this is coming down here, doesn't it? Like these groups here might be joint. Nope, that's not what's happening. These two tan structures are coming together. This water comes off, gets sucked away, dehydrated. So, and another thing we can think of is if I'm putting energy, this is the biology way of looking at this. Chemistry is a different way of looking at it. So this is the biology way. Very simple. When you're forming a bond, you're storing energy that can be released later. And I'm gonna get, all right. And we're gonna need to think about this anyways, this concept, because one of the things that happens, for example, if we build up carbohydrates in our bodies, what's the main carbohydrate that we use for energy? Sugar, glucose. So your body, after you eat, your body will take glucose molecules, monomers, and combine them, go through a series of dehydration reactions to form this big molecule that's called glycogen. That's a storage form of energy. All right, so we're storing energy. All right. What if I need to break the bonds? I need to break bonds. Well, this is a hydrolysis reaction. So if I'm forming bonds, I'm dehydrating. If I'm breaking bonds, I'm hydrolyzing. Okay, so this requires the input of water. I'm going to put my little water molecule here. And then oftentimes these reactions result in the release of energy. There we go. Release of energy. That's good grammar. I am from central Pennsylvania, and this is, I'm just kidding, okay. Release of energy, not energy. Anyways, you know how many years that's been on there? About 3 or 4 years. I never fix it. So, this oftentimes confuses people. Forming bonds, dehydrate. Breaking bonds, hydrolyze. Need to know that. All right, quick example for you. Anybody here cook pasta? Anybody here cook pasta? Anyone? Okay, so is it Ashley? Ashley? No, I was looking over here. Ashley? No? Emily Casagrande, okay. Emily, so you had your hand up. So if you have the pasta in the colander, right? You finish cooking it, you put it through the colander, and it's sitting there in the sink, and then something happens. You get a phone call, and you pick up your phone, and you're talking, and 20 minutes later, you come back to your spaghetti that's now in the colander. What's happened to it? It's all stuck together. Why is that? Because all the water, excess water, has drained out of it, right? Dehydration. How do you break it up again? 20 minutes is going to be tough. But how would you try to break that up? Put some water in there, right? You hydrolyze it, break it up a little bit. Okay, so think about this as pasta, all right? Easy. All right, let's move on. So, proteins. Proteins are the most diverse group of macromolecules that we have. Most diverse. Both chemically and functionally, right? So if they're diverse, that means that they can take on literally millions of different structures. And if they can have millions of different structures, they can have millions of different functions. Dun, 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 dun. Thank you. All right. So, and this is because we have 20 plus different amino acids. But 50% of the mass of the cell is protein, right? And surprise, surprise, they perform most of the lifting, the heavy lifting or the work in the cell. So proteins do pretty much everything in the cell. If you need to have a molecule dragged from one part of the cell to the other, you form this little protein highway, and then another little protein puts that on its back, it doesn't have a back, and carries it from one side of the cell to the other. It's pretty amazing. So, the polymer of proteins is protein. But there will be other polymer things that we'll see too, like polypeptide, etc. So, but the general polymer of the macromolecule of proteins are proteins. The monomer here is an amino acid. It's an amino acid. And I have here the structure of amino acid. This is the basic structure of amino acids. You absolutely need to be able to draw this thing. So, it's got 3 major components. On the left, at least according to the way that it's drawn here on the whiteboard, is this amino group. We should be able to recognize that. So it has an amino group, hence it's called amino. Attached to the nitrogen of the amino group is a carbon, which is called the alpha carbon. Always called the alpha carbon. Always, always, always. And then we have this functional group out here. Well, you guys already saw what was up on the board, which is a carboxyl, right? It's not a carbonyl, it's a carboxyl. Now, this alpha carbon always has at least one hydrogen attached to it. So, I can draw in here. I'm going to highlight then, let's use red. This portion of the amino acid right here that I'm now highlighting in red this is the same for every amino acid. Every amino acid has an amino, a carboxyl group, separated by a carbon, which is called the alpha carbon, to which is always bound at least one hydrogen. The same for every amino acid. Where it's different is what's called the R group. This is what distinguishes amino acids from one another. This is what is going to convey or give to each amino acid a particular property. We will talk about these R groups very shortly. Now the bond that holds amino acids together is called a peptide bond. So the bond that holds different amino acids together is the peptide bond. Peptide bond. And this bond is formed, we're going to say, through dehydration. Right? We're going to take the water away. So let's see how this works. So I have up here on the screen, we have an amino acid on the left, and then we have another amino acid on the right. And I've drawn here for you just the general structure. This will also be very important for you to be able to draw out on your own. I'm just saying. So you might want to start practicing here. So as we said, if you want to find out where the bond is going to be formed or where I could form a bond, I'm going to look for a water molecule. So this looks like I've got a hydroxyl and a hydrogen here. So the bond between two amino acids is always going to be between this carbon on the carboxyl and the nitrogen on the amino of a different amino acid. So this is where the bond is always going to form, okay? So there's my water. Put my energy in, zoom. Take my water out, zoop. And now, gesundheit. Here we have it. Here is a molecule. Now it's a macromolecule because I have united at least two amino acids by means of a peptide bond. Okay. And this is, now we see, here's now my dipeptide. So a polymer that's made out of 2 amino acids is called a dipeptide. All right, let's stop here for a moment. Do we have any questions about this? And I'm gonna go out to my let's poll everywhere out there. You guys out there, you guys good? Any questions out there? What questions in virtual world? Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, this is Matthew. Okay, go ahead.
Let me turn my
We'll be right with you here.
So when we're binding, say like more than just 2 amino acids, how would that work?
Okay, good question. So the question is, if we were to bind more than 2 amino acids, how would that work? All right. Well, what you would do is you would, it's going to be hard to do on the white screen here. So what you would do, Matthew, is where we see the dipeptide here at the bottom of the white screen. All right, so we have our molecule here. You would then bring down another amino acid. To the right. You'd line up your amino and your carboxyl group. You'd remove the water and you'd form another bond here. That's how you would do that. And then if you add the 4th one, you would just keep adding them. So when these are added, they're all added in a chain in the same way. You would just keep adding them to the carboxyl group, to the carboxyl end. All right? Good question. Let's see if we got, John, we got a question. Okay, how about now?
Good.
Yes?
Yeah.
Weird. Okay. I love this stuff. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. All right. Awesome. Okay. So all four of these atoms, elements, biological thingies. I'm trying to be a little funny here. The oxygen, the carbon, the nitrogen, and the hydrogen. These four that I have highlighted or outlined, they are critical for the stability of the peptide bond. So the peptide bond itself does not move. It's stable. It's in place. Doesn't move. So it conveys to the molecule tremendous stability. It's needed. So if someone on a quiz or in an exam were to ask you to identify all of the atoms that are essential and critical for a peptide bond, you would highlight these four. Right? Okay. If it were made out of 3 amino acids, it would be called a tripeptide. If the polymer had somewhere between 10 to 15 amino acids, it's an oligopeptide. And if it's greater than 15 amino acids, it's a polypeptide. If you have a single polypeptide that is longer or larger than 100 amino acids, or if you have several polypeptides can be bound together that can form a protein. So I'm using these terms because when we start, I better not go over here because they can't hear me so well. When we start talking about hormones, heard of hormones before, hopefully? Okay? Some of the more important hormones in our bodies are polypeptides. Polypeptides. They're between 15 and 100 they're between 15 and 100 amino acids in length or in size. Okay? Can anyone name for me an important polypeptide hormone? I'm going to give you a hint. It's released typically after you eat. Go. No?
Dopamine.
What's that?
Dopamine.
Oh, dope. Well, that's a neurotransmitter. That's definitely released after you eat. That's that, I feel good kind of thing, okay? It's not a hormone. Yo! Insulin. Insulin, right? Insulin, okay? So we will definitely talk about insulin later in this class, and I will refer to it as a polypeptide. When you hear that, that's a type of a protein molecule, okay, made of amino acids. All right. Here are the 20 most common amino acids. And notice the way that the structure is presented or drawn for you. This is taken directly from your book. At the bottom of each of these amino acids, we have what's common to all of them. Notice that. We have the amine group. We have the alpha carbon, to which is bound to hydrogen, at least one. And then we have our carboxyl group. So notice that's the same for all 20 of these. And highlighted in yellow, that's the R group. And you notice that this R group is different structures. So there's different elements that are making up these R groups. And these different R groups then are going to give the particular amino acid a particular property. So, let's stop here for a moment. By the way, do I have to be, yeah, Anthony.
So, quick question. The amino acid, the regular amino acid in this diagram, they're all drawn with the last oxygen on the right there. It's like a negative.
Yeah, so, and it's lost its hydrogen, so it's actually functioning in this, it's drawn functioning as an acid. It's donated its hydrogen from here. Okay? And then the nitrogen is actually functioning as a base on the left side. It has an extra hydrogen bound to it. So it's represented as NH3+. Okay? So you may see it drawn this way. If I draw it, I'm going to draw it the way, I'll draw it this way, the way that I have in the notes. Okay, but thanks for pointing that out. That's good. Let's get the point out. So some of these properties, okay, good. So, let's freak everybody out this morning. You ready? Do I have to know how to draw all of these? And all their names? No, you don't. You'll have to, if you're going to go forward with this class, you want to start getting these in memory bank. But, did I scare you out there, out in virtual land? I hope not. Okay. So, first of all, notice that each of these has a 3-letter, so they have a name. And then that name is represented by a 3-letter abbreviation. So if you see, for example, PHE, TRP, TYR, GLN, if I write that in an exam or a quiz, you should know, oh, those are amino acids. This is a peptide, or this is a protein. Okay? So you also don't have to know the names or the 3-letter abbreviations for this class. It will be helpful if you go forward, but anyways. So, the amino acids themselves are broken down into some major categories. So what are the, give me one, point out a major category and tell me what you notice about the R groups. We'll start with Anthony. Anthony. So that's this big category right here. Yep. What do you notice? These are all carbons and hydrogens. Yeah. Except for tryptophan, which is kind of a weird one, and methionine has sulfur. But most of them, the R group is made out of hydrocarbons, hydrogen and carbon. So, what do we know about a bond between a carbon and a hydrogen? Okay, it holds energy, it stores energy, related to the fact that it's nonpolar.
It's not bold.
CH bond. Generally.
Remember we said on Monday that the electronegativity between, the difference in the electronegativity between the carbon and the nitrogen, there's not a lot of difference. So those electrons are for the most part going to be equally or unequally shared. Equally shared. So when the bond between two atoms is equally shared, or when the electrons in that bond are equally shared, that means that it's a nonpolar covalent bond. So most of these bonds then in the R group of the amino acids in this big green category are nonpolar. And they're almost all made of carbons and hydrogens. Big exception. Methionine has a sulfur in it. I'm not going to ask you about methionine, so that's more for next semester. But tryptophan, it has this amino group here in the ring structure. It's still nonpolar because it's surrounded by hydrocarbons, and that sort of like blocks out, in a certain sense, neutralizes the amino group. Caleb? You're stretching, okay. All right. What do we notice about the polar uncharged amino acids? What do we notice about their R groups? Okay, we're going to do the old, let's see, anyone out there? Anyone out there in radio land? Nope? Okay. Kristen. Where's Kristen? Kristen, what do you notice about the R groups in the polar uncharged category? So we have a lot of nitrogens and hydrogens. Yoke, right? We have a hydroxyl here, hydroxyl there. Here's a carbonyl and an amino. Here's a carbonyl and an amino. Here's a hydroxyl at the end. So that this would be able to be polar out here on the end. Here's a sulfide cysteine. So, if it's polar uncharged, it's going to be, if you see a lot of carbons, or a lot of nitrogens and oxygens, so we're looking for hydroxyls, and then aminos and carbonyls out on the ends. That means at the ends of these R groups, we're going to have some of those partial negative, partial positive charges, those delta negative, delta positive charges. It's going to be polar. Can interact with water. And can interact with other polar amino acids. And finally, we'll pick up with the charge groups on Friday. So I'm going to post the metric system questions, the answers to the questions today. Look at your answers. If you are confused, confounded, get it going backwards. Check with me. The tutoring hours begin, I think, tonight. Check with, I think Shane is on tonight. And also Sarah Mills, I think her CLP is tonight. So I'm going to post CLP information. We'll see you on Friday. We're going to continue working on proteins. And we might start on carbohydrates. Yo. You guys are good. Let me check with you guys for a second. Oh, once again, if we get some help cleaning desks, you got to get the The wipes are on the side. If we could have some volunteers, please. Those don't, yeah, that's empty. We got to use those on the side. Thank you. Okay. What's that? No, it's fine, Aiden. You do what you got to do, man. See you.